Hello and welcome to episode 16 of Genre Blender, the podcast that celebrates all things storytelling. My name's Ryan.
And I'm Chris, and today we are talking about the anti-TBR, or I guess anti-play, anti-to-be-played
Yeah,
as well.
TBP, that's what I wrote.
It was a tag that was created by Nicole and her books, and we'll have the original tag linked down below, as well as her channel. But we thought this might be a fun one to split up, and I'll go books, and Ryan will go games. So it's all
Yeah.
about things we will not be reading. Well, I won't be reading, and what they won't be playing. So,
This is kind of a fun one when you posed this idea. I was like, cool, but this is good because we don't really, or at least I don't kind of as a rule, talk about the stuff that I don't like or choose not to play or read or whatever. Just because I like to promote things that I actually like and enjoy, and you want to spread that around a bit more. So it's kind of cool. Let's get all of it out in one in
yeah.
one episode,
What did I say
but
when I
also have
sent
some
you
fun
this
with it.
tag? I was like, it's spicy but also chilled at the
Yeah.
same time. And we were already discussing off camera that we both have things that will upset the other one as we go through this tag. So
Accidentally on
that'll
purpose.
be interesting to
Yeah.
go. But before we jump into that, we will announce the giveaway for Mythos Unbound. So Esme, that one is going to come your way. Congratulations, golf claps all round. So thank you for answering the question for us. I'll get in touch with you on Instagram to organise that one in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. Awesome. One quick thing on the episode last episode, not last week, 2 weeks ago. It was kind of nice to be a listener on that episode. I just
Yeah.
wanted to say thanks to Shayla for coming in and being a part of that episode and for the great conversation. It was a great to to be like a viewer and a listener for a change. So even though I wasn't there, and I apologize for not being here for that episode, but thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, congrats to Esme for the book there.
Thank you for doing the editing because that sounded like it was fun. All I did was turn up and talk.
That's fine.
So should we jump into a read, watch, play update?
Yeah.
You've been pretty busy, so what's been happening in your world?
Yeah, dude, I've been so busy. So, I do have a few things to share for read, watch, play though. So I have something, but yeah, I have not really been reading. I've just been so busy with the Japan prep and house projects and stuff. I've had very little downtime. However, I did finish reading finally Confessions of a Mask, Yukio Mishima. I've been reading this for like probably all of February, and it's just a tiny little, it's a short book.
Sometimes life happens though. Like,
Yeah, it couldn't be helped. This one I'm gonna have to mull over for quite a while, just because it's so emotionally heavy. Is the best way to put that. I think it's one that you should probably read. I think you'd get a lot out of it, but you've got to be in the right mental space for it. He was heavy. It was a heavy book for such a small thing. But I'll think about that some more before I say anything on it because it was literally just this morning that I finished it. And I finished watching the first season of Pantheon
oh
finally.
yeah, someone else brought that up the other day to me. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm sure I've heard that name before, and then remembered it was here.
yeah, it was great. The first season's fantastic. Like it's some of the best sci-fi I've ever watched, and it just happens to be animated. This was a recommendation from a friend, and it was a great recommendation. And I didn't realize at the time when I started watching it, but it's actually an adaptation, I guess, or taken from Ken Leo,
Hmm.
who writes a bunch of sci-fi fantasy, award-winning author. So yeah, and translated the three body problem as well. So anyway, just the fact that it's from something so well known, I had no idea, and that makes a lot of sense now in hindsight. I hear season two is a little bit of a bit problematic, so I need to read up more about that before I jump on into that. But anyway, I'll watch it probably.
Everything is problematic these
Yeah,
days. We're going to go into some of that when we talk about these questions, like literally everything. You can't escape it.
you can't. So, but anyway, I enjoyed the first season, and I've played a very, very teeny tiny little tiny bit of Monster Hunter Wilds because that's out, and I'm so excited, and maybe I'll get to play it before we go, but I'm not sure. So, to be determined. But I have played maybe an hour's worth plus the character creator, and it's a fun time.
How many hours in character creator though?
You had to
Yeah,
ask
no,
that question,
yeah,
didn't you?
yeah.
Two, I
Okay,
think.
two's not that bad. I've seen Rachel spend half a day. in
Yeah,
character
yeah, no,
creation and then
I couldn't.
scrap it and go back to like square one. Like, how are you doing this for so many hours? Like, just make decisions. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Monster Hunter is interesting because it's a game that I've always wanted to play, but like Rach scared me off it because she hated it, and I was like,
Oh,
and it's
really?
gotten to now. I'm like, we don't like the same games, so very likely I will actually enjoy it.
I think you'd probably like it. It's a technical game. Like if you have the patience to kind of master at least some of the moves for maybe one weapon, but it's fun to play with friends. Like it's just such a good time. So Steph and I will be playing that one together. So if you're interested, it's
That's,
crossplay.
I
Hint
mean,
hint.
that's it's also nice that you get to play with your partner, and then like the
Yeah.
third wheel, me just not knowing what to do.
I don't know what to do. It's just fun.
Um,
Cool. Well, how about you? What have you been up to?
cool. So I finished Butter by Asaka Yuzuki,
Nice.
and I have thoughts, which I will probably need to sit on, and I won't talk about it too much because you're still in the
Mm,
throes of it. So, probably a discussion we'll have once you get back from Japan. What I'm very interested in is the thematics of the book being, and this isn't a spoiler or anything, but being very heavily situated in misogyny, and then going into the country and like seeing that culturally IRL, and it'd be interesting to get that comparison between the what's being portrayed in the book and is that actually happening, or can you see that happening when you're over there, because very culturally different country to us. So that
yeah.
was good. Contemporary tends to sit between a 3 to a 3.5 for me. Like, they don't tend to, they're not my go-to genres. They don't tend to wow me a lot. But I had a good time with it. I'm also reading The Liar's Knot, which I just put back on the shelf because I hated the gap in there, so I don't have it to show anyone who's watching the video. And this is by M.A. Carrick, and this is high political fantasy, which is it's very intricate and delicate, and I'm having a great time with it. But I do need some brain space to be able to keep all the threads together when there's a lot of moving parts happening in it. And then I'm also reading Level Unknown by David Dalglish, which is a literary RPG. So getting used to having stats in my ear like every couple of chapters again is like, what level is people at now? Okay, they've been given like +1 agility, +1 physicality, or whatever. I don't think I can read these books physically because I could skim it and I'd miss it. So there's
You're right.
definitely a subgenre of fantasy that I tend to do on audio because it doesn't annoy me as much on audio just to have like numbers thrown at me throughout it. But it's not every chapter, which is nice. I have listened to some before where like every chapter, and just because you keep going up and there's more things added to it, it's like, okay, well, I could have not had that 30 seconds of my life. Just messed up with numbers. Those are the books. I haven't been watching a lot. I started Fellow Travelers, which is I guess it's a 30-year love story of these two men starting in the 1950s or the late 1940s, and both working in politics and needing to hide, and then it comes right through the AIDS epidemic of the 1980s. It's heartbreaking, and you follow these two men through the timeline of not being able to give all of themselves to the other person, but also still trying to navigate where it was essentially illegal to be gay, and to a more accepting time where this thing is destroying the lives of gay people. So very emotionally charged, but acted so well. It's got Matt Bomber and Jonathan Bailey as the two main actors who are doing it, but very very emotional. I was trying
Oh,
to read it like to try and get a cry out, but I'm just dead inside, so that still hasn't happened. um, but yeah, no, it's very good and hard hitting. Like, every episode, you need a breather from because it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go watch something funny now because that was a lot.
yeah.
And then Rachel and I started playing Lies of P, which, in theory, like, I love the artwork, I love the direction it's going. A horror retelling of Pinocchio, just like amazing,
Yeah.
and the puppets like being the big bad and having that sort of iRobot esque. These puppets have turned on society. I fucking hate Souls games. I hate them so very much. And it's very like, it's so hard for no reason, and you cannot change the
Yep.
difficulty in it. So Rachel and I
Yep.
have been playing it together because I have more patience, so I will do the same thing 100 times in a row and not crack it. Rachel doesn't, but she's much more skilled.
Yeah. Sounds like a good team
So
effort
like,
there.
I'll like get through the streets and whatever, and then I'm like, oh, it's a boss. This is for you.
Pass the
I'm
controller,
not
your
doing
turn.
that, yeah. But it's been fun to do it together. We don't really play games together because our tastes are
Yeah.
so different.
Mhm.
But normally when she like bites the controller and wants to throw it across the room, I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's time to turn that off.
Yep. Oh, that's great. Yeah, that sounds like that would work pretty well team wise. I agree with you. I really don't play Souls games for the same reason. It's just difficult for no good reason.
But
Don't.
like, what's annoying about that is the stories are often really good,
I
and,
know.
and the and like the cinematography or the game design is also
Yeah.
like extremely well done. They're just so
Yep.
frustrating.
Yeah, I know. The actual like the what you just said, like Pinocchio, the whole like explanation of what this game is and the story and stuff, like I'm in. And then
Yeah,
the actual
100%.
gameplay happens and I'm just like, I can't.
We were watching our housemate play Black Myth Wukong, which is another Souls-esque game, but it is so
Yeah.
beautiful and the
Yeah.
story is really intriguing. But it's like I
Mhm.
just can't. I can't with the amount
Yeah.
of nonsense. I don't mind watching these type of games, but I don't
Yeah.
tend to like playing them.
Yeah, it's good when you know people that are good at them. You just watch them. It's like a cinematic experience, basically. That's not me, by
Yeah,
the way.
100%. I watched you play
Nice.
Elden Ring back in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah. No, briefly. I might go back to it one day, but my goodness, it's just not my actual my go-to game. Um, literary RPGs, that kind of breaks my brain a little bit. I'm very curious, and I don't know if they're for me. I have an inkling, probably not, but I I'm curious. Let's just say,
I'll find some sci-fi ones and send you
yeah,
them.
please.
So they do exist. I'm pretty sure my mate Mark was just listening to a sci-fi one. That was
Mm.
just like a space opera, a lit RPG
I
space
don't know
opera.
if I could do the whole stats thing in a book. Like those two things are very separate for me. In a video game, fine, but also you can ignore the behind the scenes stuff. You just focus on the story. That's fine.
I think you can also ignore them in lit RPG. It's just like,
Hmm,
oh,
okay, we'll
stats.
see. Yeah,
Next page.
interesting. Interesting.
But yeah, I much prefer progression fantasy because or progression sci-fi because you are growing and you are learning, but you don't get the stats. Like you just sort of grow and get more powerful as you go along.
Yeah,
It's interesting because they're often linked together, the progression and lit, but they're different, in my
interesting. Okay,
opinion, in my totally
I
subjective
will.
opinion. Before just putting that out there.
Yeah, you'd know more than me. Yeah. Look, I'll remain curious and I'll check that out at some point. But we'll see. We'll see what I reckon about that. Shall we get into
let's
it?
let's jump in. So, for anyone who doesn't know, the anti-TBR slash anti-to-be played tag, as we've now like reclaimed it, is all about things that you won't read. So it can get a little bit spicy because there's questions like problematic, I guess, developers or for you and problematic authors for me, and people you just have zero interest in reading. So I've tried to steer away from like romance because I just don't read romance, and a lot of my audience already knows that. So I've tried to steer away from that to give some different answers. But yeah, it will be it'll be interesting. So I'll ask the question, and you can go first, and then we can swap over if you want to go that way.
Yeah, we can. We just tag team it. But yeah,
Tag team.
I can I can start if you want. But yeah, feel free to jump in the questions and
So
I'll
the
answer.
first question is a popular book for me, a popular game for you that everyone loves, but you have no interest in playing.
Hmm. So I actually have a funny story for this one because until very, very recently, that was Fortnite. And then Steph kind of encouraged
Did
me
you
to
get
play.
strong armed into Fortnite?
So look, it was her birthday. She plays it at the moment. I thought it'd be a nice thing to say, surprise, I'm gonna play some Fortnite with you. And I
That's
got her some
actually
like
cute though.
yeah, I got her this Fortnite Lego thing as well. So it was like a Fortnite themed birthday, and I was like, okay, let's just play a little bit. And then I actually spent money on skins and stuff because of course, right?
There it is. Because you're a gamer. I was thinking you were going to come up with like Starlight Valley, the Disney one.
Oh yeah, that's one of these as well. That's one I won't play. But no, so that was until very recently. So I actually did play that. So that can't be my answer. I actually I found some skins that I'm actually really liking now. So I'm probably going to play
That's
a
so
bit more.
funny.
I know. I don't usually fall for that stuff
Back
either.
into your tweeny days with
I
your
know,
Fortnite playing.
right? So, the actual answer I will give is like all of the other competitive games, League of Legends,
Yeah.
Dota, Overwatch, Valorant. Yeah, I can put all of those in one category. Basically, any competitive game, pop it in a category all together. There you go, serve that. That's my answer. I just don't have a competitive bone in my body, I think.
I think that you and I match up on that because I just don't care. Like, I
Yeah,
just. People
yeah,
want to compete with me. I'm like, you can win. I,
yeah.
okay. Like, this
That's
means
it.
nothing to me.
That's it.
Righto.
I'll do my own thing. I'll go find my own
Yeah.
stuff to do. Yeah.
So I'm playing video games. Like I've got a mate Nathan who we will often, well, we'll try and play games together. But I just love exploring,
Mhm.
and I will get into trouble because I often will go into areas where I should not be. Because I'm like, this looks
Right.
pretty. I was like, oh, it's a troll. I am not
Yep.
strong enough to do this. And he's
Yeah,
like,
you need
why?
saving.
Why are you going into these areas? Exploring, looking at
That's the
things.
fun of it.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Your turn with books.
Books. All right. So popular book that people love and I have no interest in reading, and I'm so sorry, right?
It's going to be like a pre-apology for a lot of these answers, I think.
Literally anything by Andy Weir. Like The
Oh
Martian,
wow,
Project Hail Mary,
dude.
whatever the other one was. I just don't care.
Oh,
I fell asleep.
hurt
I've
my
tried to
heart.
watch the movie twice and I fell asleep. I'm like, this is not for me. I don't care. And I guess the
Wow.
other one that I could pull out of the hat is Fourth Wing, like smutty romantasy.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't mind like a bit of smut, and I don't mind like a bit of romance as subplots in things. But I'm like,
Yeah.
just that book just holds nothing for me. I'm
Yeah.
just
You
not
want that stuff
into
to
it.
be secondary to like the
Yeah, yeah.
main
I
thing.
was like,
Yeah.
give me some sick world building, and like I will get it. I will get invested in a romance in a book,
Hmm.
but it has to just not be at the forefront for
Yeah.
me.
No, that's fair. Oh, I can't believe you said all the Andy Weir books. Oh my god, they're some of the best, man. Some of the best.
Nah, I've got.
They
I actually
that
own two of
was
them on Audible, and I'm like, yeah,
they're so and they're good on audio too. Yeah, the Martian as a movie was also excellent, but like the book was great. It was really good. And Project Hail Mary, freaking loved it. The one I didn't like so much was
Artemis.
yes,
Is that?
Artemis. Yes, the one that takes place on the moon. That was it was okay. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't the best.
I like the story of the goddess Artemis.
Yeah, yeah,
I just, yeah, sorry, man.
yeah. That's okay. Okay, it's on. It's on.
If you bring Stardew Valley into this,
No, I was going to, but I realized I couldn't really put it on the list because I've actually played it rather than just like shoving it aside. So,
all right, that brings us to number two.
all right. So number two is
Like a little hole in your heart.
if I can recover now. So yours is a classic book or author you don't have an interest in reading, and mine's a classic. I've put like retro slash classic game for developer you don't have an interest in playing. You go first.
Again, this is gonna hurt. Charles Dickens.
I can see that. Like I get it.
I have zero desire, and like I picked up A Tale of Two Cities like many moons ago, and I literally read the back and I was like, eh. Put down. And like ever since then, like there's a lot of classics I do want to read, and every time he comes up, I'm like, I just zero desire.
Just don't. Yeah.
And then I guess also F. Scott Fitzgerald, whoever wrote The Great Gatsby.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
there is zero desire for me to go and read
can
anything that person has written.
I can understand that, especially for you with Dickens, because Dickens is like there's a lot of humor and whimsical.
I'm not about it.
You know, very whimsy, and you don't care for that, and neither do I, except for some reason.
Chris isn't fun. It doesn't
I
like
wasn't going to
joy.
say it. You said it. Yeah. I was kind of the same, but I came to Dickens really late, actually, like not very long ago, and I kind of get it now though from what I've read, and I haven't read much of Dickens really. I've read like A Christmas Carol and what was the other one that I read last year?
Great Expectations.
Yes, thank you. And I've got a couple that I'd like to read this year if I can, but like I get it now why people sort of revere him so much. But I can understand you like not really caring because it is quite whimsy in places.
I also put Gone with the Wind on here by Margaret Mitchell, but that's an epic love story, I'm pretty sure. But I'm more interested in that than I am in Charles Dickens, which is saying something.
Wow,
Um,
man! If
what
we were
about?
doing books, I might have said something like a Jane Austen or
Oh yeah,
you know
interesting. Okay.
yeah, the Bronte sisters. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Recently
Yeah,
come to like be like, no, I want to read Pride and Prejudice because I want to read the Trans Mask retelling of it, but
yes,
I want the source material
you should
first
read
just
the
to see.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I've got it.
Easy.
I just haven't read it. But yeah, what about games? I've just hit you twice, so go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, this one, I don't know if you'll have any sort of affinity with this one at all, but I put Castlevania. It's one
Oh
that
yeah.
everyone knows, and it's such a classic game series now. There's a whole bunch of others, but like the original Castlevania. But I just don't really care for the whole like gothic
Mm.
horror kind of vibe. It's just not really my thing. It's kind of is annoying because it's one of those games that like everyone is familiar with, and there's like at least spin-offs and things, but also because it's a genre of game that kind of you can mishmash it with other genres, and people know what that means, and if you say it's a Castlevania like game, but I just don't care for that like horror, gothic horror type element. Or maybe it was because I just never really played it on the original console, so
I think
yeah.
what's interesting about games like Castlevania is it came out alongside of a lot of other games that people like identified with and then made their personality. So, and because it's such a long-spanning franchise, like it's still going today, which had a recent animation come
Yeah.
out for the series or for the franchise. It's like that holds so true to people that you don't want to hear anything else. And like we
Yeah.
just, Rachel and I just went to that Final Fantasy piano concert, and it's like there were so many people who had grown up with these games. They were all in their like late 30s, 40s now, and it's like just because you grew up with them, and there's been so many of them, we're up to 16. It's like that's whole. So I'm guessing all those people don't even know what Castlevania is. Like to link it back because it's like that was the game. That was the game that spanned decades. And like I'm Pokemon. I know
Yeah.
it's lame, but like I
Yeah,
grew up with
same.
Pokemon and I
Yeah.
just played Pokemon and like Digimon came in and I was like, well, okay, it's kind of similar and get it fine. But like Castlevania just wasn't my thing. But I know other
Mm.
friends who that was their franchise.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
yeah,
People get
interesting,
really
different.
passionate about it. So, you don't want to upset anybody and say, hey, not for me. I don't hate it or anything. I just don't really care. So,
And that's it. It's such an indifference. Like,
yeah.
so,
Yeah.
like there are other things I can spend my time on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were all like 100-hour games and there's little pixel art as well. So I don't have 100
Yeah.
hours to go and put into all these
Yeah.
games.
There was a lot when I was going through like the classics, the list of them to find something. I realized like most of them I've actually at least played or tried out, from like from the original Nintendo NES and then Super Nintendo and and beyond. But yeah, Castlevania was one I just don't care. Sorry, sorry if you love Castlevania, not for me.
This is just to offend anyone who does listen to this podcast.
Yeah, get everyone riled up. Come on.
Oh, so question three has a three, and then we've got a 3.2, which is interesting. I wasn't sure if we were going to go down this route, but kept it in there anyway, just for a bit of spice. It's a little salt bay of spice on what we're doing. So the first part is an author whose books you have no interest in reading, or I guess developer or game companies. I'm not sure how you've interpreted
Mhm.
that
Yeah, a bit of
for
both.
yourself.
Yeah, yeah. So I put 2K Games, who they're
Yeah.
owned by Take Two, but they basically Bioshock is like one of the biggest ones. Borderlands, and XCOM's another one that I haven't really played. I've tried a little bit of all of them, and I've tried to get into Bioshock. I tried to get into Borderlands. For some reason, and I should by all rights, I should like Bioshock because the story is actually really intriguing and kind of, a bit
The story for Bioshock is
spooky.
sick, but it's
Yeah,
I
yeah.
also tried, but first person. I
Yeah, well,
can't
that's
do
that's
it.
the thing. That's a no for you. See, I can tolerate a first person game. Okay, like I don't get motion sick or anything like you do, but they're not my favorite kinds of games. But I'll tolerate them when the story is good or when I have a real interest in it. But I've tried so hard to get into those games; they're just not for me. So I'm thinking maybe 2K their games just aren't really for me, and just in general. And I'm not someone who usually would just write off a game based on, or write off a developer based on a game or their history of games. But I think that might be the exception to the rule. Maybe.
When you said 2K, I thought you were going to go like the sports.
Oh,
So
those two. Yeah,
stupid.
I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't even consider
the
them because
sport
I'm just like
balls.
it's not. Yeah, sports ball games. Yeah, no thanks. Yeah, all of the any category of sports games, just I didn't even think about it to put it on this list. It just doesn't exist as far as my brain goes.
I still love playing the basketball ones before they changed the way that they did it, so you didn't get to play at least the recent ones. Because I bought, I want to say 2022, like the NBA 2022, and you don't get to play the whole game anymore. You only play like snippets of it, and you don't get to like level up your character. So I was like,
What?
like back in the day, you were just like, and you could verse other people, right?
Yeah.
And you would play the whole team, not just one player. Um, I mean, I played a bit of
No.
FIFA with my housemate because she was like well into when women's soccer or football, depending on what region you're from. And I was like, yeah, I'll play this. I'm no good at it, but I'll give it a go.
Just kick the ball
Um,
around or miss
it's like
it.
I'm big on quality time, so if that's what you want to do, I'll do it.
Nice.
I'm not going to be great at it, but
Nice. Yeah, if there's any chance of me playing soccer, it's going to be in a video game.
yeah.
Even then, it's slim to none.
Um, I have a list
Uh-oh.
of authors whose books I have no interest in reading. And you've recently read one and you enjoyed it, and I asked you
Oh,
about it,
God.
and I was like, I've got no desire. But what's interesting about this list, and I will put the caveat here, is I still enjoy hearing about the authors because my mum reads very differently to I do. So it then gives me an in to have conversations with her about these authors and things that I think that she'll like because they're in that vein. So I still very much keep up to date with people who talk about these authors. I just have no desire to read them myself. So we've got people like Colleen Hoover, Sally Rooney, Taylor Jenkins Reid, Frederick Buckman, and like Frida McFadden are the list that I've put down here. But like my mum is like mad into Frida McFadden at the moment. Like we introduced Kindle Unlimited, has them all. Like read like
Yeah.
5 books while she was here for a week. Um, and
These are
so
all
it's
contemporary, right?
they're all contemporary, yeah,
Yeah.
which is not my chosen genre. And like when I pick up contemporary books, for me personally, they need to be quite thematic for them to hit me. So they're exploring a theme or a character study rather than a
Yeah.
story within the contemporary realm. But yeah, like I said, I still really enjoy learning about these authors so that
Yeah.
I can have that conversation and like be like, hey, I heard this person's doing this, you might enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because that's the sort of thing that you read. But yeah, for me, not for me.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, the Sally Rooney book I read recently, Normal People, I wouldn't recommend for you for just from knowing you, but I mean, I'm glad I read it. It's not really my go-to either. Like, contemporary, I do enjoy contemporary. They do have to be also thematic from, for what I want to get out of them, I suppose. But yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
It's
it's not really for you.
it's interesting, and this is a tangent. So I mean, everyone who listens to
We
this
love
is used to me by
tangents.
now. Is I quite like contemporary historical fiction.
Mhm.
So, which I guess the author that I'm thinking of here is Sarah Waters, which I read a lot of when I was coming out as queer in another lifetime. But I really enjoyed, I guess, the flowery prose, but that was more character based.
Yeah,
It was, we're following people in a time period, and I do quite like historical fiction that lends itself to a more literary or a contemporary feel. But yeah, just anything like this, not
yeah.
sort of
I
intriguing
can
to me.
see I can see how someone who would enjoy genre fiction a lot would like historical fiction in that way
Mm,
because you're kind of pulled out of your current circumstances
yeah,
in another time and place. So that makes a lot of sense. And also, yeah, the Sarah Waters books are a little bit again, haven't read very much, have watched the adaptations, but um, they are very I don't even know how you would explain it. Like they almost feel like a pantomime in a lot
they're
of
so
ways. Like you're
Victorian.
in,
Like they're
yeah,
just yeah,
very
you feel like
Victorian.
you're like cobbling down London streets.
Yeah,
When you read them. But yeah, like
yeah.
I love it, but I love flowery prose. Like I love
Mhm.
purple prose, and I feel like a lot of that lends itself to
Yeah.
purple prose.
Fair enough. I'm not offended yet. Keep going. Keep hitting me where it hurts. It's fine.
Well, the 3.2, right?
Uh-oh.
I don't think I'm gonna offend you with either of these. I don't think you'll even know them. But so 3.2, the caveat to it is a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading, or problematic, I guess, a developer, however you interpreted that one. Um, do you have anything for this one? I'm genuinely curious if you have.
I do. But because you've made it a point too, I've got to go find my answer now because I had it as number what was
Four?
it?
Did you put a
Number
four in there?
4. Yes, there we go. Cool. So I can count. I was gonna say I can spell. No,
It's all gone pear shaped.
my brain. Yeah, so I do have one. Well, I've got two actually. One main one, but so I put Riot Games, who do League of Legends,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Valorant, and a lot. Look, to be fair, a lot of game development studios and companies, just in general, a lot of them, especially for a while, a lot of this information was kind of coming out and people were hearing more about it. A lot of them have kind of like there's some sexual harassment claims or gender-based harassment claims, things that aren't so great that you're hearing about, or a number of other things as well. There's a lot of people working a lot of hours during like crunch time. It wasn't great for mental health, things like that. So it's I'm singling out these two just because they're A, more recent, and B, ones that stick in my mind. But Riot Games is one of those. Luckily, I don't really care for the games anyway, so I'm not really missing out. But there's also a developer. His name's Scott Cawthon, and might know Five Nights at Freddy's,
Oh yeah,
the
yeah,
games.
yeah.
Yeah. So when I was streaming on Twitch, they were really super popular. Everyone was playing them. I think a lot of people still really enjoy them and play the games. But his political views, he's very right leaning and was sort of donating a lot of money to Trump and to a lot of right wing politicians at the time. But there was a whole thing where I think he got doxxed online, and I don't. No one should have that happen to them, no matter what they do. No matter how egregious their actions are. And I think that happened to him. And so now that whole thing has sort of been sullied by that whole conversation. It could have been just left at this isn't great. Let's not support it. Let's not play these games anymore. But yeah, that's one that I will never touch just because of the developers' public, political leanings. But it is a bit of a shame because a lot of the LGBTQIA plus community was a big fan of that game, and that was sort of a game that they adopted and started to play. So it always is a bit of a shame when you hear that and then uncover exactly what the developers' leanings are. And it's the same with authors, as we'll hear from in a minute, I'm sure. But yeah,
It's it's such an interesting thing to get to, and we will have a full topic on this. Ryan and I just need, I think, a lot of time to sit down and talk about problematic people and art versus artists and things like that. It's interesting because what's problematic to you and I won't be problematic for somebody else. And it's like having to pick those battles, and then how do you talk to other people about those things? Like I thought EA was going to come up for sure as a developer in EA games because of all the nonsense that happens there and the price gouging and things like that. Plus the more sinister things that EA
yeah,
have done. But then, you think of things like The Sims, which allow many, many people to live out lives and to experiment and to, it's such a force of good. And where does that line get drawn? So, for me, I've gone with not the obvious ones, the authors here, because I think most people know about the obvious ones and they can be quite triggering to people. So, very similar. I've gone with someone who's very openly and problematically right wing, and that is Larry Correa. And I just got rid of 4 books of his off the shelf because I was, this is all new. I was cleaning up some stuff and I was unhauling some things, and I had 4 of his, and I always like got a feeling about it. And that's a thing, right? You tend to get a vibe off people, and then just some of the unhinged shit that comes out on this guy's social media. It's like, no, like I'm not about it. I don't need it in my life. People who love that sort of thing, great, go enjoy it. It's not for me. But like the most recent thing I saw was him popping off about gun laws and how he was fighting to promote gun laws when he was writing these these books, and he was like, I owned a machine gun shop and I was trying to get like people to buy guns and saying don't take away our freedoms, and I was like, cool, that's not for me.
there's a
I,
sign.
there's a that's going away.
Wow.
And then just language around, particularly I know both of us are quite sensitive to LGBTQIA plus things, so the language about our people, and I was like, not about it. And the other one that I've got here is TJ Klune, which I think some people, and like I see people that I respect and enjoy their content of, still talk about TJ Klune, and a lot of those people are self-aware enough to say, like, choose your own adventure really with this author. But there was just some information about cultural appropriation in regards to an indigenous school that he was researching for a book that's very, very popular of his called House on the Cerulean Sea, which just rubbed me the wrong way. And since then, I haven't heard a lot of like defense or research, and it's been anything good. So for me, it's like, again, if you enjoy that sort of thing, because a lot of people resonate with these books, that's great for you. But I'm probably not going to go down that route ever. And I think it's a very personal thing for anyone to make that decision. Ryan and I were talking briefly, like I've got people on my shelves that I'm sure will upset some people, and having to make those decisions for yourself and realizing that people are more than the choices that they make. And there's massive conversations to have around problematic people. And we came to the
Yeah.
conclusion, well, I did, that everyone's a shithead at some point. And like we've all like lots of people do questionable things. You just need to make those decisions for yourself.
Yeah, with limited information that you have and all of that too. I find it interesting, just a quick aside on that, how that affects someone picking up a book from an author or a game, whatever, for the first time, because it's a different thing once you've read a book or several books from that author and then you discover that and you know how you feel about that, you know, versus knowing that information before going ahead and picking up a book and deciding to read it or not to read it, you know. And that's kind of where I'm at with a lot of these, because a lot of these authors, especially the more popular ones, the ones that have a lot of attention on, you know, the book socials, where people are talking about them. I've not read a lot of these popular books, and so I'm hearing about all this stuff before even having decided to, you know, ever pick up a book and read it. And it's affecting that decision making process for me as to, you know, what do I choose? Do I just avoid that completely? Is it easy just to say no thanks? Because there's plenty of books. It's not like you know, I'm never going to read all the books on my list.
It's not like there's any shortage of books out there.
That's it.
But
So that's
you know,
interesting.
I guess to talk about that a little bit because it is interesting, and I promise we'll move on to the next question soon. But who we speaking about earlier? Dan Simmons. So Hyperion is a sci-fi series that I would love to read. Dude was homophobic and I think a little bit racist. Like I'm not sure. I haven't looked too far into it, but I knew that after I'd bought the books and they were, you know, on my shelves. And it's like, okay, well, I don't want to hurt anyone by reading and supporting these books, but I still want to read them. And like, it is there's a difference between going, I'm just not reading it and I'm putting it away. Now, in the case of the most recent sexual harassment claims that have come out for a very big traditionally published author, it was a no-brainer for me. I had those books on my shelves and I was like, nope, like just not happening because this dude is still alive and still making these choices. Dan Simmons, I believe, is dead. I don't
I
know.
have no idea.
I have no
I've
idea.
not read.
Um,
Yeah, I don't know.
but it's like I also have Dune on the shelves, and like I don't think Frank Herbert was particularly nice to homosexual
Mm,
people, and like again, dead. And like, where do you draw the line?
yeah,
There's a huge conversation to be had there. In essence, make your own decision. Don't let
yeah,
people judge you for it. Just if you're happy with it, be happy with it.
yeah, and respect everyone else's as well at
Exactly.
the same time. Yeah,
Exactly. I could go on about this for ages. Let's move on.
we could easily spend a
We could
whole episode.
derail.
But yeah, I was like, this is not
This is
the
the
episode for
TBR
that. So
tag. Let's
yeah,
TV play tag. Question 4. You want to go?
okay.
Or 5 for you, I guess.
Yeah. So this is a developer or author you have played or read a couple of times. A couple of books or games from. Wow, I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna read it like that anymore.
I get it. I'll introduce a book one.
Okay, good. So a game developer you've played a couple of games from and have decided their games are not for you. So other than the ones from before, Bioshock and Borderlands, this one might be a little bit more, I guess, controversial for RPG fans. And also, this is just me being honest because because I tend to, and as we'll discover in a minute, I tend to, if something is an RPG, if something has a good story or it's a JRPG or just an RPG in general, I usually just pick it up. I'll be like, oh, I'll like something about this, you know, without really going too much into it or doing a bunch of research on it. But the Tales series of games from Bandai Namco, there's a whole series of these. There's Tales of Vesperia, Tales of
Yeah.
Symphonia was the first one.
Yeah.
There's, you know, I don't even know how many there are at this point. And I've pretty much got, I think, all of them. And I did play Tales of Arise on stream when I was still streaming, and I probably put in a good 60 hours or so. I don't know if I will play any more of these because that game, a lot of people love it. You know, it has a pretty big following. You know, a lot of fans. I thought the story just got really convoluted, just completely nonsensical. I couldn't follow it towards the end, and it started off really good, and there's stuff to like in it. But I don't know. And then the rest of them, I feel like I'll be spending all this time because they're long games. This is the other part of it, right? If they were short games, different
They're
story. But because
100
they're
plus
like,
hours, aren't they? Because I'm
yeah,
pretty sure I was
they can
watching
be.
you play that Tales of Arise.
Yeah, and visually it's stunning. Like I don't regret
It's
playing
cool.
it, but
Combat
I'm
is
just
cool as
like,
well. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The combat's great, and that's what I think draws a lot of people to these games. But but I tend to play games for story first, combat second. And if it's the other way around, I don't know if I can, keep that
Yeah.
up long term. So I think maybe I might draw the line on these, but I usually don't draw a hard line on saying I'll never, I'm not interested, no thanks. But maybe these ones are that for me. So we'll see. It's a bit of a question mark, but I thought I'd be honest and mention something that I thought I would like and then ended up not so much.
So for me, it's an author you've read a couple of books from and decided their books are not for you, and I'm so sorry to like the general public who
Uh-oh.
follow sci-fi and fantasy, but it's got to be Joe Abercrombie. So,
Okay.
and again,
Mhm.
like I'm not someone who usually says like I'll never go back to it. I still have two books on my shelf that I haven't read by this author, but the four books I have read have left me wanting quite a lot. And like he's so beloved in the fantasy realm.
Yeah.
And you know what Abercrombie does well, he does well. Like his witty prose is short, sharp, it gets to the point. It's amazing. His character work's second to none. But I am not a character driven reader at the forefront. So I don't tend to care. It takes a lot for me to get invested into a character. And like there's a book, the fourth book, which is it's a series of standalones. There are three standalones that are in the same world. It's called Best Served Cold.
That's the one I've
It
read.
it was the most boring book that I have ever experienced. I was like, and like every, I don't know, 100 pages, you're like, okay, so this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and Mons is going to have some sort of conniption about it. It's like, it was so repetitive. And if someone picks it up as a first fantasy book they read, no wonder they hate fantasy now. Like, and
That
like, it's
was
a
me.
spicy opinion. It's like, why would people come back to this genre when like this is the thing that they're reading? Anyway,
Yep,
I
I,
could
I
go on a
DNF'd it.
whole Joe Abercrombie tangent.
Hmm.
People think he's amazing, and like I will concede, character work and his prose excellent.
Hmm.
It just doesn't hold enough for me to care.
That's fair.
Like I'm world building and then I'm plot, and like
Yeah.
it just doesn't have that. So
Yeah, I
um,
agree.
so
Well, at
I've
least for that book.
I
Yeah.
do have the other two. I don't think I'll go on to the follow-on series from that. The one I am potentially interested in reading is his YA nautical because I like nautical fantasy, but I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's just a there's so many other things to read, right? Maybe it's just
Yeah,
not for me.
that's what it comes down to,
Um,
hey?
and the other
Yeah.
one I've got is another problematic author. And
Well,
wha-
as we've established, they're all
what's
problematic, so
yeah, what's upsetting about this is I genuinely enjoyed the books. And this is the Cromwell Strike series by Robert Galbraith. And if you don't know, this is J.K. Rowling's pseudonym, which is real funny to me. Like, it just makes me giggle that she's so against trans women, yet uses a male pseudonym to write these books in. Anyway, we could have a whole episode on like how much this woman is unhinged, but I read the first three before all this crap came out about it, and I genuinely enjoyed it. And then the fourth book, which I think is the one that she was releasing, and the fourth book also, I didn't read it. I'd bought it, and then I like heard about all this stuff, and I was like, this is a no from me.
yeah,
And I gave it to my dad because he was interested in reading them. I was like, look, just so you know, I'm not buying anymore. If you want to read it, then put it in the bin or donate it or do whatever you want with it. But I believe the fourth book was the one that had the cross-dresser character being
right.
talked about in quite a derogatory way. They
Mhm.
weren't trans, but they were cross-dressing as a woman. Um, and yeah, I'm just, I can't.
No,
It just gets to that point where I'm like, anything that supports this person is a
yeah,
no from me these days.
yeah,
But
I,
again, like to our audience, make your own decision. Like it's not us
yeah,
you to do what you know, one way or the other.
yeah.
But for me, it's
If
a no.
if you feel icky by picking it up and starting to read it, that's probably a
Yeah,
sign.
and that's the thing. Like I looked at them on my shelves after, like even I think it was the essay or whatever came out, and I was like, I don't like that. They're
Yeah,
there. So yeah,
yeah,
alas.
that's fair. That's yeah, I have no quarrels with either of those choices.
I love that the Joe Abercrombie one was like, yeah, I picked it up and it was sucked.
Yeah, well, I agree. Like, so it was one of the first fantasy books that I kind of read after a long period of time. So it was that, but also I agree. Like the character stuff, excellent. Yes, the writing, I actually really enjoyed his writing
Yeah,
style.
writing's great.
I was just bored,
It's
and
just
I
very
dropped.
boring. Like, oh,
So I get it. Okay, so next one. So this one is a genre you have no interest in, or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. And luckily, I don't have to adapt that one for games because it works both ways.
Yeah, it does.
So for me, this was an easy one for me. This was like the first thing that I answered because it's first-person shooters and it's strategy or tactical games.
First-person shooters are not it. I do not understand
No.
how people like just get so much enjoyment. I mean,
Yeah.
I played Halo as a teenager, but that was more to hang out with people. Like it was
Yeah. It
always a
was a social
multiplayer.
thing.
Yeah, but like a storyline, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same with GoldenEye. Like, that was my childhood, absolutely. And that is a first-person shooter, but I didn't play it to, it was just a ton of fun.
Yeah.
It was a social thing. But they've become too serious as well. Like regardless of the whole first person, shooter, the whole genre of the, how much fun you get out of killing other people, other players.
That's
They're
another
too
podcast
serious.
episode
Yeah,
somewhere down the line.
yeah, I just don't really enjoy them. I like a good third person shooter or like a looter shooter. Like when Steph and I used to play Division 2, that was so fun. And then COVID happened and it became a little bit too, like, because of the themes of the game, I was like, no, I don't really enjoy this anymore because it's real life. No thanks. But it was a fun time, and that's a good way to hang out with people. Those kinds of multiplayer games I enjoy. But yeah, first person shooters not really my thing. And strategy and tactical games, I've tried so hard to like these games. I can't. They're just not for me. My
Can you
brain
give me
doesn't
an
work that way.
example?
Well, I guess all the Civilization games would be
Oh, yeah, right,
those
right.
world builders games, and then
Yeah.
also things like XCOM. But even things like there is a tactical RPG series called Fire Emblem. You've probably heard
Yes, I've heard of
of
them.
it.
Yeah.
And I've never played a Fire Emblem game, and I picked up Fire Emblem Three Houses. And I still have yet to play that one, and its sequel. Again, have not yet played it. It's sitting on the shelf.
You know what? You see all the books that I haven't read behind me. I want the podcast to see the little shelf of games that you have
Yeah,
in
luckily
your
they're not in
house.
this room. They're in a different room. Haha, you'll never see them. There's a lot. I have a lot of games I haven't played. A lot of Switch games as well because anyway, that's another story. But those the type of tactical kind of games. I picked up the Fire Emblem games just because of the RPG element because it's very much like it's like a mishmash of like a tactical Persona. I don't know if you're familiar with the
Yeah,
Persona
yeah.
series of games. Yeah,
I only watched you play Persona
yeah.
5.
And the stories of those games are really good. So this one is a little bit like that, but then with a tactical RPG element on top. So I'm yet to see whether that's something that I will like, whether I can sort of get past it or find some fun in it. But when it becomes too serious and you really have to strategize and things like that, it becomes work, and that's not why I play games. I get why people enjoy that. And if I had maybe infinite time, it would be different. But for why I play games, which is story first and then, just for fun,
Yeah.
yeah, not really my cup of tea.
I think that's why I don't like things like Mass Effect and Dragon Age. To me that seems like it's tactical because there's so many moving elements in the new ones anyway, and you've got to like deal with your teammates and shit. And I'd be like, no, automate all of that. I don't care. Like, just if they're helping me, sick. Like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't want to deal with it.
To be fair, you kind of can get your teammates to do most of the work. So if you want to play that way, there is like a story mode, so you can just kind of
I
go,
would
no
definitely be
thanks.
doing
Let's
story
just
mode.
kind of, yeah.
If I get a
and that's why
Valve,
they
I think
exist.
that's the way I'll go because I just want to play because it's pretty. I won't look
Yeah.
at the story. Just want to go on. I love a good hack and slash. Where there's just
Nice.
no thought process behind it. You're just like going in.
Did you play Skyrim?
No, I can't first person. I think you
Oh, of
can play it
course.
third person,
You,
but
yeah, it's a bit jank.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that and I've heard Avowed is not great in third person, but like it's passable. So like maybe I'll give it a go. That's why I'm going to do it on Game Pass because at least I
Yeah.
don't pay the $120 for it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, games aren't cheap.
no, I was shook at how much. I mean, the base game, and you don't even own it anymore.
Yeah, the digital
It's all
copy. Yeah.
digital, like you don't own the rights to it, yet you're still forking out. Anyway,
Yeah.
there's another tangent that we could go on. But for me, sorry, you finished with your answer before I just
yeah.
like take over from you. Like you're done now. Sorry.
I'm done.
So outside of straight up romance, it's domestic thrillers for me. I have tried. I've enjoyed a couple to the point. Like when I say enjoy, I'm like 3-star reads. They were fine. And I'm not mad that I read those things, but I do not gravitate towards them. And now that I know that those aren't really my tastes, I just don't. Like I just don't pick them up. But there are definitely ones that I've read in my past, which, I hold fond memories of because I think the time that I read them more so than the stories themselves. But yeah, domestic thrillers, just not about it. I don't love reading about abuse of any kind. So a
Yeah,
lot of the time there's like situations in those which, people are being abused in one way or another. And I'm like, they don't have
yeah.
swords or magic though.
It's not
So
very escapist. Yeah.
no, not in today's age. It is not.
No.
So yeah, not something I tend to go towards. I like thrillers,
Mm.
just yeah, not
Yeah, that's fair.
ones at home.
It's hard to distinguish. I'm sure it's not my genre of choice, but I do agree. I do enjoy a good thriller here and there. But I'm guessing it's kind of hard to distinguish. Like if you're after one but not the other. Like when you're picking up a thriller and choosing to buy it.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess to very basic level, I read a book by Martina Cole, and I cannot remember the name of it, but it was like a family drama, and the thriller was all based within the family, and the abuse and stuff was happening within the family. And then I read Mystic Island by Dennis Lehane, and that was very, very good. And that is a thriller, whereas this one, Martina Cole, was a domestic thriller. And the thriller looks at more people, and it's like a broader scape, and it's actually a theme and a storyline that they're following rather than just all encompassed in one family unit, as I guess how I
Yeah,
would describe it.
sure. Yeah,
And like, not
makes
that the
sense.
Martina Cole book was awful, it's just just like horrific and too
Yeah.
real, and
Yeah.
I don't want
Again, it's not why you read stories,
it.
right?
No. No,
Yeah.
my poor like non-fiction shelf has got like 4 books on it. Like he gets like dead here.
Oh, that's a non-fiction shelf?
Yeah,
To the bottom one? Yeah.
nothing on it. Also, I tend to listen to non-fiction more than I
Yeah.
read them.
Are you planning on reading more non-fiction? Is that a goal?
I listen to it. Like
Yeah.
yeah. So I will consume non-fiction via audio most of the time, and I've got like a TBR for non-fiction, mostly memoirs or historical things. So I'll pick your dad's brain if I ever meet him about The Wager if he picks it
Yeah,
up,
if he
because
reads it. I hope he
that's when
does.
my
He seemed pretty wrapped on it when I gave it to him for Christmas, so it was a good suggestion. But yeah,
yeah, it's like
it's
I want
good.
to read that one. But the next question we have, in essence of time, so cracked on
Yeah,
for a
of
while,
course. As
is
we do.
a game that you have bought but you will never play. It can be a game you have unhauled slash returned.
So I came with props for this one for the video watchers. I actually had to go to my shelf anyway to find these because I was like drawing a blank. And look, there's a lot, but like I said, I don't really draw a hard line typically and say I'm never going to play something. It's usually I'll try it, see. I don't have to finish a game to say I've played it either. So, but there's three that I found. The first one is Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, and sorry, the reflections there
Glary,
for the
yeah.
video watchers. But this one, it's a remake of a PS2 game, and I got this because I was at the time enjoying the number 5 in the series, which is the newest one, I guess. I don't know if there's one that came out after that. And I did stream that one at the time. But I've realised whoever said, and I don't know who to give credit to for this, but I 100% agree. Whoever said the Shin Megami Tensei series is basically Persona without the heart,
Right.
they were 100% right. That's kind of how I feel about it. I didn't finish the fifth one because I just got bored with it. The combat is excellent. I love the combat. The visuals are great. Like it's just, it looks amazing, but I just got really bored with it, and it just didn't. It lacks something, and I think it's that character element. It's the story element, which is why everyone loves Persona so much, including myself. So that's that one. This one here, it's called Mato Anomalies. Kind of a cool cover there as well. This one is a JRPG. It's like a noir, kind of cyberpunk-esque noir JRPG game, turn-based JRPG. I think it's from a Chinese developer, so it wasn't like a Japanese JRPG, because not all JRPGs have to be made, by Japanese developers. They just, that style. And this one's
That's
a
a fun
Chinese
fact
developer.
for us today.
Yeah, there you go. Throw one in there. But I was intrigued at the time, and then I just hear it gets a little bit like, kind of a little bit like busy work, and especially with these longer games. Again, if I had infinite time, I'd probably play it, but I think something's got to give. So I don't know if I'm ever going to get around to that one, to be honest. And then this one here is Two
Oh
Point
yeah,
Campers.
yeah.
I love these kinds of games, but again, I don't know where they fit in my life because I just don't have the time to play them. I really
They
loved
suck you in
playing.
too.
They really do. Yeah, the theme park one was great, and I played Theme Park the original on Super Nintendo way back in the day. Loved that game. I would hire it out from the video store over and over again, because I loved it. We didn't own it, and this is kind of the spiritual successor to those. And there's a new one that's just come out. I
Zoo
think there's
Tycoon, it looks great.
yeah, there's that one, and there's another one by Two Point as well. So
Campus? Another
so
campus
Campus
one.
is this one, and then what did they just make? There's another one. I'll find it. I'll pop it in the show notes. Anyway, there's heaps of these, and they have a big following. But I would love to play this, but I don't think it's going to happen. To be honest, maybe we'll see.
We're getting too old, like to keep
Yeah,
building on our
I'm feeling
to
it.
be played, to be read
Yep,
files. Um,
yep,
yeah.
yeah.
For me, it's a book that I've bought but will never read, and that's going to be When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This is a romantasy, I think a smutty romantasy as well, and I watched a vlog, and I was like, this sounds great, and then I got it. Like, I ordered it off the vlog, and I was like, no.
Why did I buy
Just
this?
absolutely no. But, like, fortunately, I have a friend who likes these sort of books, so I can just gift it. Like, I can just say here.
Nice.
But yeah, I got like real FOMO, which is why I generally do not jump on a hype train. Like it is, hype train is one of the things that turns me off so much. And I don't know why this one got me. And I was like, oh, $17 from Amazon, bargain. And I was like, no, I'm never going to read it. And another one is probably The Wise Man's Fear, which is still on my shelf. Like it's down here. It's the sequel to
Oh
Name of the
wow.
Wind.
Yeah.
I read Name of the Wind when it released. Really enjoyed it. I'd be interested to read it now, many, many years after, and see if I still enjoyed it now that I'm a bit more well versed in fantasy. I don't know if I'm ever going to read the sequel because Old Mate's never going to release his third book, right?
So what if he does? Then would that make you read it?
I don't know. He's also turned out to be a bit of a shithead.
Yeah, but everyone's a shithead. So
Everyone's a shithead. That's the title.
yeah. Everyone's a shithead. Yeah. Yeah, interesting because I'm actually kind of hyped to read that. I don't know when I'm going to get around to it, but I ended up buying the physical copies of them.
So do you
And
want it?
if I didn't have it
Don't
already.
buy any fantasy books ever. Ask me first.
So I guess that one's never going to be a buddy read then.
Maybe look again. I'm not a never say never person. So maybe if a buddy read would make me read it, but I'd have to read the first one again because it's been over a
Yeah, it's
decade.
been too long. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I loved the first one. That surprised the heck out of me.
I just hate Quoth.
I
Such a
loved him. I
douche.
thought he was
Yeah,
great.
don't align on Quoth or whatever his
No.
name is. Quoth. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could never pronounce it in the book. All right. So wait, who asked the last question?
I'll read out the question. Have you? Is that your answer?
That's my
You
answer.
finished? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So number 9. Yeah,
Question
this is the last question, right?
Nope.
Yeah. Oh no.
2 more questions.
A series you have no interest in playing, or a series you have? Yeah. Okay. So a series you have no interest in. Well, I'll start that again. Now my brain's shutting down. A series you have no interest in playing, or a series you started and have DNF'd. Okay, so there are 3 that I cannot differentiate between because they're all kind of for the same reason. So that is Red Dead Redemption, and number 2, God of War, and The Witcher. This is where I get payback.
No. You know what? I've only ever played, I think, a couple of hours of The Witcher 3. I cracked the shits.
Why?
I've just cracked the shits on The Witcher as a series. I'm like, you know what? I know that for me, reading is the format I enjoy the most, so I will try the books. But the game shat me to tears, and the show I didn't enjoy.
I haven't seen the show. I might actually watch that if I'm not going to play the games. Did you just not like the combat or because of the
I just
gaminess
didn't.
of it? Or
I didn't like the. I like linear. I like linear storylines with an open world feel, and it was too open world for me. So I kept just like going into places that I shouldn't, just dying immediately.
And then
It's like,
dying.
fuck this.
Yeah, it can be difficult actually. And I didn't really like the combat of The Witcher very much either. So I felt it was really clunky, and maybe you get used to it, I suppose. But that kind of put me off as well. So I kind of get that vibe from it. But I also feel like there's just too much baggage with The Witcher.
There's so
Like,
much.
I actually bought the first and the second games fully intending to play them, you know,
I
because
also
it's
have them.
yeah,
Maybe instead of a buddy read, we could play The Witcher 1 and
buddy
talk
play.
about
Yeah.
that. Buddy
Oh
play.
God, if they were shorter.
Oh,
Anyway,
I'm
so
giving it
yeah,
10
that's
hours. I'm not playing 100 hours.
yeah, no, it's not going to do all the DLC and stuff for number
Yeah.
three. Like that's not happening. And the downside is like it was really good. I hear a lot of good things. People love these games, and
Mm.
I feel like I'm missing out. So a little bit of FOMO for me for that. Same with Red Dead. I'm not a big fan of westerns. Do you like westerns? No.
No,
I feel like I should have known the answer to that.
I don't need no honky tonks.
I've tried to love westerns, and it's kind of funny because, like, you know, I like things like Firefly, and there's like that
Yeah,
western
space western.
element in it. Space westerns, it's
Yeah.
just different kettle of fish.
I don't mind fantasy westerns.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so same thing, and it's really cinematic. The story's great, but I just can't for some reason get into it. It is available on Steam Deck, and apparently it plays really well on the Steam Deck. So maybe that's my ticket to try it out and actually play
This
it.
is the thing, right? Like, we've got all these things, and the whole point of this tag is to be like things we won't do because there's not enough time to do
Not enough time.
everything. So,
Yeah, that's what it comes down to, pretty much 99% of the time. And same with God of War. God of War games, the new ones, by the way, the remakes. I never played the originals, but I played and did finish the newest one, not the sequel, like the new remake, the first game of the remakes. It was okay. It was fine. Just a bit too puzzly, you know. And just everyone was going gaga over it, and I'm just like, I could just take it or leave it. It's fine. So
that's a big reason why I'd never picked up the second Zelda on the Switch.
mm-hmm.
I was like,
Yeah, same.
I did like the shrines in the first one. There was enough
I
puzzles
hated
for
the
me,
shrines.
but the second one is more puzzly, and you have to build shit to do them. I was like, no,
Yeah, yeah, I'm out.
I'll
Yeah,
tap out on that one.
no. So yeah, it's probably pissed off a lot of people with that one, but anyway, that's my answer.
Not me. You didn't get me.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm
okay.
going to get you with this one.
Yeah, we'll see.
So I also hate the casting for this. So that's a hint that's just come out. But so this is a series that I have no interest in reading, or a series I've started. So I have started this and DNF'd it, and that is Murderbot, by Martha Wells. So the I cannot tell you how much I hate Alexander Skarsgård as Murderbot. It's like I've never actually been mad at anything before, and I saw that and I was like, why am I angry? Why am I invested? This person is playing this character. I was like, I just wish they'd put a non-binary actor
Yeah,
in
look,
that role. That's what annoyed
did.
me,
Yeah, I get that.
because
Yeah.
their Murderbot is genderless. It's like you had such an opportunity for diversity there, and you didn't go for
Yeah.
it. Um, but like I like it for what it is, but it's so same. And by the third book, I was like, these are formulaic. I'm not enjoying it anymore. There was like, I know the fifth one was an actual novel, or there's one in there that's like an actual novel rather than a novella. So I'm sure the story actually builds, but I tapped out. And again, I think it's Joe Abercrombie-esque for me in terms of I like the writing. Like I genuinely enjoy the writing and the snappiness of it. But yeah, I just stopped caring. And I was like, well, I've stopped caring, therefore I won't do it.
I can see that for you because of it's very character focused. Like the whole point is
Mm.
like the snarkiness of the character. But also, I find it ironic because you bought me those books.
Well, you like them. We like different
I know.
things.
I
Um,
know. Just
and the
funny to
same
me.
reason, like I buy my mum all those, other
Yeah.
authors that she would like, but I have no interest. The other one for me is Dragon Riders of Pern. Now, I was mentioning this while we were off the camera. I don't know that the author was problematic, but the themes in the books were problematic for me. A lot of misogyny in there, but they are products of their time. And there were some very, very cool elements in the first book where sci fantasy was blended together so well, and like those elements were fantastic. And for, I guess, the dragon riding trope or dragon riding subgenre, it is a pillar of these stories coming out, the more modern stories coming out. So I can definitely see where its place is. But just the misogyny, there was like, and also just gender bias from women to women as well in this story. And like, so there was a point in, I think it was the first book, where basically the male character goes, well, I was in a relationship with this person, so I raped them. And it was fine. And I felt bad about it. And I was like, that's a tap out point for me. Like,
Wait,
if you're
what?
not even going to be like, and not that remorse is a great reasoning for that particular thing. But so I think I read the second book. So had Buddy read it with two other people. And I said, I'll take one for the team. I'll read the second book and I'll let you know whether it's worth going on. I was like, it just doesn't get better, unfortunately. But the elements were there and they were cool. But yeah, just tap out at that
Yeah,
point.
that's interesting because even I know that book series by
Mm.
name. What year was that published in, if you know, off the top of your head?
70s, I'm pretty sure.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Well, that was actually one of the books that was like the fantasy books that was on my list of like, should I read this one day? And I guess not.
I mean, look, you can, but you'll be mad.
Sure. Yeah.
And
No,
there is something to be said for a product of its time, and I will acknowledge that. And at the time, those societal views were probably quite relevant, and it was a turning point for women in those times starting to get rights and things like that, late 60s in the 70s. But yeah, just not a vibe. It's like
yeah.
for me.
Bit
So
of a turn off. Yeah. That's
yeah.
fair.
Um, all right, last question. We made it. We got there
Did
in
we?
the end. Yeah, we have.
Unscathed?
Friendship is still intact, so that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Well, actually, this is the one where I might get you. So,
Are you gonna
so we'll
say?
see.
Never mind.
I think you might guess, maybe. So the question, let me grab the question for this one. It is a new release you have no interest in playing or reading. Do you want to go first for this one, or did you get? I'm lost.
I don't know. Yeah, that's fine. I'll go. So this is, and again, it's a not a never say never. I own three of these books, and I have three of these books on my shelf. But a new release that I have no interest in reading right now is Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson, which is book 5 in the Stormlight Archive. I don't know where I sit on Sanderson as a writer. For me, he writes a phenomenal ending. Like he is so good at endings, but I don't want to read many words to get to this point because these books are all like 1,000 to 1,300 pages long. It's
Yep.
like I don't know if I have the time or the patience, particularly when I like really didn't like the relationship nonsense in the series that I did read. But I like one of my favorite characters in there, one of my favorite endings of a story is in there. So I'm like I'm very undecided. But at least like for now, I have zero interest in picking up Wind and Truth.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I've read the first Stormlight Archive book, and I have no desire
I
to read anymore.
I'm genuinely surprised that you picked one of them up because that just is not. Look,
That was
Brando Sando's YA sci-fi series is great. Like,
yeah.
I really like it, but
I don't know what I don't know. It's complicated because he's so one prolific and two popular and like he's puts himself out there like as a business guy like he does all the
oh,
right
so
things.
good.
He's great. But like I don't know. It felt like I was reading a video game, and I'm just not. I'm not a big fan of that too much. So it's just my thing.
Isn't that funny?
But
I'd rather read them rather than play it.
that's where we differ.
Yeah,
Yeah, but look, I didn't hate it, so I can, if that was the only thing I could read, I'd be like, okay, fine. But I own the second book, but I'm not going to read anymore.
there are other things for us to hate read. You know,
Exactly, with more passion.
just
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Yeah, this one is is that your? You don't have any more?
that's my answer.
That's it?
I'm waiting.
So
Hit me.
okay,
We got.
so buckle in because you mentioned it before. I think you could probably guess what this one is. Uh, it's Avowed.
Avowed. It's very fantasy.
It's very.
It's
I
not.
was
It's not sci-fi at all.
So when this was in development, I knew about it a little bit, and then I completely forgot about it. And then you mentioned it to me again, like, I don't know, a few months ago, that you were interested in playing it. So I was like, oh, Kris is interested in a video game. I gotta go check this out. Maybe we can, talk about it.
Nope.
I was like, oh, yes. Yeah, I looked into it. I was like, no, this is not the
I
video
thought you were
game
going to
for
hit
me.
me with Fable 4, and I was like, get out.
Nah, nah. See, I've played the Fable games. I don't mind them, but this one it looks like Skyrim, but even more fantasy with more proper nouns I can't pronounce, with more, you know,
Just fantasy for you. The book I'm reading right
pretty
now, I
much.
have no idea what half of these words are.
See, it's just one of those things that I just can't get past for some reason. And to put that in a video game, I was like, no, that's where I draw a line. Although I will say some of the conversation stuff that's in it does look pretty cool. I wish I could get past that thing that prevents me from enjoying this kind of stuff, but unfortunately, I
And
think it's
you
just one
know
of
that
those
I'm
things.
not listening to any of that dialogue. You know I'm skipping past that shit. I don't care.
Oh, isn't that ironic? That's so funny to me.
We're so similar, but so different.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is just
complete opposites on
yeah.
some things, which is great. Cool. Well, that was fun.
That was fun. We made it.
Let's
We
do
made
this
it
again
to the
sometime.
end of the tag. Maybe
Yeah,
we can flip it, and I'll
that'd
do
be
games and you can
interesting.
do books in like 12 months' time.
Yeah, the reason we, by the way, bit of context, the reason we did it this way, rather than me just talking about, books that that I hated, was because most of it was just like the answer for most of these questions was just romantasy or like, no interested in reading a romantasy author. So anyway, this was more this was more fun.
It was good though, because we've got two different audiences, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
And if you want to argue with us, please do so in the comments. It'll be
We
fun.
encourage
Yeah,
any and all arguments in the
respectful,
comments.
respectful
Yes.
disagreements. Don't attack each other or us. We're
Yeah,
delicate
we all like
flowers.
different things. At the moment, I think everyone is, right? So let's
The
just be
world is a
nice to
delicate
everyone.
flower. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's spread kindness.
that's it. Well, I think that about does it for today's episode. Now, there will be a little bit of a gap between episodes. So, one thing I will mention is that because I'm going to Japan, we haven't recorded any episodes. So, we're going to take a little bit of a break. It'd be nice to sort of get a bit of R&R anyway for you as well, Chris. So, there'll be a bit of a break. We'll be back in early April, and then it will just continue on as normal. But until then, yeah, just might be some short videos here and there. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, all the notes and links to the stuff that we discussed will all be in the show notes for the episode. Thank you so much for watching or listening. You can find the show at Genre Blender Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And you can follow us at Genre Blender Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky. I think we're still on Threads. Not sure if we're still
Anytime
on
we
there.
post to Instagram, it like or goes
It
to
goes automatically.
Threads. Yeah,
Love that. And direct links to all the socials and everything is on our website as well at genreblenderpodcast.com. Chris is at A Fictional Escapist everywhere, I'm pretty sure,
yeah.
including YouTube and Instagram. And I'm taking a bit of a social media detox at the moment as well. So I'm on Blue Sky and I probably will be, and I might post some Japan photos and stuff there. But ryanfloyd.com on Blue Sky if you're interested in that. And yeah, I think that's it.
To all the world hoppers out there, we wish you safe travels, and we wish Ryan safe travels, like IRL.
Actual
'Cause
travels.
they're going to Japan, and we'll catch you in the next episode. So we don't know what we're talking about yet, but we'll get there in early
We'll
April.
find out.
All right, team.
Surprise. See y'all.
See ya.